is in fact...
I agree with you there.
Well, into the first turn, it's Ray Malloy from Andy McIntyre with John Leyland in third place and Paul Gulson fourth as they throng up there into Southern Loop. As you can see, a multicoloured procession of cars, more minis than we've seen around on a racetrack for a long, long time. Very popular form of racing and, in fact, on the increase after all these years, Howard.
Since early 1960s, that gives it about 17 years of racing, and it's still, as you say, as popular as ever.
Of course, the relationship between these and other minis is very strained. Most of them have four-wheel disc brakes, coil spring suspension, and so on. Here you can see this gaggle of cars coming into the braking area with Ray Malloy just holding out Andy McIntyre and John Leyland coming up inside Paul Gulson into Repco corner. This is the tricky one when the wind's behind them, remember? So a few of the back markers could be finding it very difficult. All of them very tippy-toe there. Practice will have taught them they had to brake earlier than normal. Now as they go out through Goodrich corner, it's still Ray Malloy from Andy McIntyre, but Andy McIntyre about to make a bit of a push there.
Right, McIntyre's got a bit of a problem. I understand that his boot has come open, the boot lid has come open.
Well, he could get a black flag for that.
Unfortunately, which will tend to detract from the whole race. Let's see if we can pick that up on camera.
Up over Lukey, it's still Ray Malloy coming under very heavy pressure from Andy McIntyre with John Leyland third.
Yes, there we can see it.
Now the problem there is it could break off. It's a fiberglass part and it could therefore hit the car behind, which is a pretty dangerous situation. But of course Andy McIntyre doesn't know anything about it. John Leyland still in third place and Paul Gulson coming under pressure from the fifth place car now. I couldn't see the number.
37 starters here today, Paul, in this particular race, so action all the way.
A lot of motor cars, a lot of ADO 15s. Ray Malloy still holding out as they finish their first lap. And Andy McIntyre, they're in second place. John Leyland third. Paul Gulson now dropping right back into the pack. Gulson obviously having trouble with his carburation. As he said, he was having a bit of trouble with fuel because of the vibrations.
You notice they're quite interesting from an aerodynamic point of view.
Oh, there we have a lose. Chunks of fiberglass falling off the wings of those cars, but they're both getting going again.
Drop it back.
That was Peter Ransom. I didn't see the other one. Peter Ransom in the red car. Meanwhile, the leaders, Ray Malloy, still leading from Andy McIntyre, and John Leyland third. These three seem to have opened up a bit of a gap, but John Leyland smoking under brakes, and Andy McIntyre's got inside Malloy.
I think I think Leyland has got an engine problem rather than just brakes. Smoking all the way down that straight.
Yes, it certainly is.
Here's a passing move.
Andy McIntyre, in fact, is holding that lead from Ray Malloy. A very nice move on the inside going through Repco, and here he goes, pulling away now. Malloy's not going to like that, so we could be in for a real ding-dong battle here, supposing that Andy McIntyre doesn't get the black flag.
Malloy may do the decent thing and step on his boot for him before we get there and get rid of it.
What a good idea that would be. John Leyland, meanwhile, is doing really well there in third place. His first race for a long, long time. Down into NGK.
Oh, locking brakes, lots of weight transfer with the weight mass of the vehicle over the front wheels.
Well, of course, Leyland's car is much more normal mini than these front two cars, which are very, very unorthodox type minis. Leyland is using a cross-flow head, as you can see by the bulge on the front of the bonnet.
And the smoke out of the back of the car.
Yeah.
Now, I think that Leyland is obviously underpowered, and he's making up for it with sheer driving ability.
Well, certainly throwing that car around. But it's Andy McIntyre and Ray Malloy are making all the running here, and Malloy now passing to take the lead as they come to the end of their second lap. But McIntyre's not letting him have it. And side by side, they're going down there into the right-hander at Rothmans. Malloy has it, and now McIntyre comes under pressure from John Leyland. The rest of the field beginning to string out a little bit. The pressure is really on from the front, so it's not too surprising. Malloy, McIntyre, Leyland.
I think at this stage too, while we're staying with the leading three here, although we have gone back through some of the other cars, we do get quite a few people ring up and ask, why do we stay on the lead cars and not, say, go back to the middle of the field? It is very, very difficult, isn't it?
Well, it is. The thing is, though, what people probably don't realise is we can see where the dices are through our windows here, as well as looking at our screen. But, of course, we're staying on the best dice.
Yes, and the greatest skill is here, the best cars are here, and in the shorter races it's difficult to get right through the field, and you also keep some sort of concept of the overall situation.
I think it's fair to say, Phil, that if we do see something down the back, we'll indicate it straight away anyway.
Well, I think what we might point out here, although you're seeing the lead cars on the screen here, we have several other cameras. We have 6 cameras operating down here, and other cameras are watching back through the field to see if there is an interesting dice or to let us know what's happening.
Yes, indeed. It's a very complex affair.
Right, looking at the smoke coming off of John Leyland's car, it looks as though the trouble's with the right-hand rear wheel. It may be just a rubbing problem, and it may just be rubber smoke. The problem there, of course, is if it goes on for too long, he's in fact going to wear his tyre out. Last time they came down the front straight, you see the front 2 cars weaving towards one another as a result of the strong winds that are gusting around this circuit today.
Leyland really is throwing that car around a lot, isn't he? He's really trying to make up for that problem.
You'll notice that he's always making up time on the very fast sweeping entries where the sheer bravery of John Leyland is making up for the extra power of the front 2 cars.
I notice Peter Stoddard in that yellow car there, catching up with the leaders now.
Yes, and Alan Brazell is in the black car.
Yes, and Alan Brazell too. Alan Brazell, of course, having his first run in a Mini for a while. He was running an Escort last year, and now has rebuilt a new Mini for this Mini series this year.
Totally different driving style required for the Mini. You need a very, very big car. They enter a race corner almost quicker than any other type of racing saloon available.
Andy McIntyre still giving Ray Malloy a very hard time, and John Leyland still hanging in there very well indeed. Ray Malloy from Andy McIntyre, John Leyland, Peter Stoddard and Alan Brazell. Of course, one thing about Alan Brazell, he really wanted to get back into Minis because he had no real competition in the Escort. And he decided he'd rather have a lot of competition in Minis rather than sail around the front of the 2-litre field in his Escort. Ray Malloy from Andy McIntyre, and that car of John Leyland's, the Mini Bits entry, still smoking as they come up over Lukey Heights. Very tippy-toe here with the wind catching them underneath, very tricky indeed.
Oh, look at Leyland go. He really is trying. He just does not have the power, and look at the way he's got that car moving. Again, as I said before, the tighter stuff is where you've really got Leyland catching the other 2, but we might have lost him.
Well, he's had a bit of a lock-up there and had to fall off the back of those 2 leaders, so he may not be able to get back again because slipstreaming is very important to him without the power that the other cars have got. Of course, one thing worth noting is some of these cars are as big as 1400 cc's, 1500 cc's even, and no Mini was ever built that big.
Some of the pit crew out there waving their men on.
Alan Brazell's car, the one in 5th place, was only finished about 9 o'clock last night. 4-wheel disc brakes, coil spring suspension, and fabricated rear suspension arms. Uses motorcycle springs and shockers at the back. Very light indeed. Alan, of course, only about 5 foot nothing anyway.
Great advantage on power to weight in the little car.
Well, it's a big advantage for him. Right down there, still Ray Malloy and Andy McIntyre. Ray Malloy beginning to establish a bit more of a cushion now, but just as I say that, Andy McIntyre starts catching up once more. Andy, of course, had a fairly major prang here last year. Got involved with 2 other cars, rather, and destroyed the original one of his Minis. This is a newly built car for last season. That boot still doesn't seem to be coming off. Nobody's thought of black flagging him, so...
As I was saying earlier on, in fact, on backing off at the end of the main straight, the suction caused by the car going through the air is actually closing the boot on that vehicle.
Up from Goodrich corner now, up the back straight, which is hardly a straight, as you can see from that shot. Ray Malloy once again opening out a bit of a lead from Andy McIntyre as they swoop up and over Lukey Heights, holding it as tightly as he can in there because he doesn't want the wind to get under that car. Onto the brakes very heavily down into NGK, smoking a rear tyre there. Andy McIntyre trying to catch up, seeming to be out-braked now and then by Ray Malloy. Ray, of course, was the first Leyland Mini champion 2 years ago when the Leyland Mini Series was introduced in 1976. A series of about 7 or 8 races over the year.
You can notice the smoke there in the background. It looks as though one of the haystacks or something has caught fire at the top end of the straight there. There's quite a bit of it around at the moment.
Yes. Down the main straight, Ray Malloy has a very handy lead now.
Leighton's just been passed.
Yes, Peter Stoddart now up to 3rd place, ahead of John Leighton. And John is not going to like that, so we may have another bit of a dice here. Peter Stoddart and John Leighton nose to tail there, with Alan Brazell trying to catch up. His Mini World car. Stoddart really worked away at getting to that 3rd place.
We'll watch these two into Redco and see if Leighton can catch up on brakes over Stoddart.
They're really travelling for little
Here
minis.
he comes. Should tuck right down underneath him and try and get him on. Goes outside again.
Really battling hard is John Leighton. Really battling hard.
He just doesn't have sufficient power now.
Around Goodrich corner, up the back straight, Peter Stoddart seems to have got the measure of John Leighton now. He's pulling away from there. Andy McIntyre laps the back marker. Ray Malloy's already gone through. There's our 2nd place car, Andy McIntyre. Peter Stoddart actually bringing up 3rd place, closing on McIntyre there, the yellow car.
Obviously, the officials at the circuit have decided that that is not too dangerous, that boot hanging down off McIntyre's vehicle, and they're allowing him to run with it.
Well, that's fortunate for McIntyre and for us, I think. In fact, McIntyre seems to be catching up on Malloy again.
We're coming up to 6 laps down with 4 to go, and at the present stage they're lapping at around about 2 minutes and 7 seconds. I think that averages out to around about 83 miles an hour for the whole way round.
Which is not bad at all for a small car such as these. Alan Brazell looks as if he'll be the next one to go past Leighton.
All right, there's 3 laps to go in the first event of the afternoon down here at Phillip Island, the Leyland Super Mini Challenge. Well, we'll continue down here. We were going for a commercial break there, but evidently we do have a technical problem between here and the studios, so we'll continue with the race here and still in a very interesting position, Paul.
Well, indeed. Here we have now Peter Stoddart really having a go at Andy McIntyre for 2nd place. Stoddart, a much improved driver. We saw him drive here at the last meeting very well indeed. Much improved and really an up-and-coming front runner in these mini races. He did win a couple of rounds of the series last year. Andy McIntyre ended up as being the champion, of course, though. Up the back straight they go, lapping a back marker.
I would say that McIntyre's car has gone off as well. The gap forward to the 1st place of Malloy is a little bit wider, and here goes Stoddart. He's looking for the opening.
Now it's a matter of racecraft for McIntyre to try and hold him out. As they go through NGK, the hairpin, and McIntyre accelerates away up through the copse to get past that back marker and try and get a little bit of a cushion ahead of Peter Stoddart. Meanwhile, right out front, Ray Malloy is doing it very well to lead this very, very rich race. There's $300 waiting at the end of it for him, plus an untold number of trophies and bits and pieces. There's McIntyre with Stoddart right on his tail as they come down the main straight across the line again, and Stoddart's taken over second place. Stoddart's got up into second place. There are 3 laps to go. McIntyre really can't do anything about it. He has no answer to Stoddart's effort there. Now, whether Stoddart can catch Malloy or not, there you saw Malloy disappearing out of your picture, is the burning question. Malloy seems to have a lot of ease in his driving today. He doesn't seem to be having to work too hard now. And of course, with no other car around, he can drive a much smoother, faster pace without having to close the door for some following car at this stage.
McIntyre's not going to give up, though, obviously.
No, and they're very, very close together there as they come down towards the Repco braking area. Stoddart almost bumping into him as they come under brakes. Stoddart has the better line there for racing. But McIntyre could get him on the exit. No, I don't think he's got enough power. Stoddart's retaining second place. But of course, all this is now slowing them down a bit because they cannot take the best lines through the corner. They have to concentrate on stopping the man behind from getting through.
McIntyre would have been smarter to have stayed in behind Stoddart to take a good drag up the hill. He's obviously down a little bit on power.
Well, we can see on acceleration out of the corners, Stoddart just seems to have the edge on him, or maybe it's the gearing. Up the back straight and over Lukey. Stoddart swoops down into NGK.
And you're watching the first event on the program, the Australia Day program from Phillip Island, the Leyland Super Mini Challenge. Right, 1.5 laps to go.
And it's still Ray Malloy leading the race, but now, as you can see behind there, Andy McIntyre has got back in front of Peter Stoddart. An incredible race of fortunes here for these two. And I do believe now they are closing a little on Ray Malloy.
Possibly Malloy being around for a long time. You can see that he's well happy to let them get a little bit closer and make it a bit more exciting.
Well, McIntyre certainly is doing a great job here. We thought we'd seen the end of him when Stoddart got through into second place. But no, he was determined to come back, and come back he did. Whether he had a momentary rough spot on the engine or something like that, we don't know. But Stoddart certainly isn't going to give up, so this could go right through to the flag. They've got 1 lap to complete after this one. They're going up the back straight. McIntyre determined, and Stoddart just as determined as they go up over Lukey. Working those cars very hard. Using very often international Formula 2 tyres on these cars on 13-inch wheels rather than the 10-inch wheels they come with standard.
Stoddart's thinking quite well. He looked there for the right-hand exit of that corner. He got squeezed because of the back marker. He's certainly having to think hard.
I think he's planning it all for the last lap. It should be a real bonanza of a last lap between these two cars. McIntyre opens just a little bit of a gap as they pass some back markers onto the main straight. And as they cross the line this time, they'll be starting the final lap. McIntyre got quite a nice little gap ahead of Peter Stoddart. Meanwhile, Ray Malloy is in no trouble at all. Malloy has a good 100 yards. Stoddart thinking hard now exactly how he's going to do this. Where would you do it, Howard?
I think he was right last time, and that is over the top down into the hard right-hand corner and try to outbrake him, take the inside run. and then try to beat him across the line from there. There's the matter of having to stay behind him, I think, at Repco corner, and then behind him all the way up the hill until we get to the sharp right hand.
Well, they're coming down towards Repco now. Very little to choose between these two cars. Stoddart not making a big attempt here, just closing up and letting Andy McIntyre know he's there, just in case he didn't know. Up towards Goodrich corner. Stoddart just holding his position. Up the back straight now. This is where we think it'll all happen.
Now Stoddart should move to the right of McIntyre.
He's a little bit too far behind, I
Yes,
think.
he is, unfortunately.
McIntyre must have known what he was planning.
Now here
He's
he goes.
closing now.
That's right, to the outside, and that gives him the right-hand run. No, not quite close
McIntyre's
enough.
closing the door on him.
Ah, yes.
Straight away. McIntyre knew what he was up to.
Well thought.
I think he's going to find it very hard now to get in front of McIntyre unless he has some reserve of power, and he's willing to spin that engine right up. Approaching the last left-hand corner onto the main straight. He's got to get closer than that if he wants to do a slipstreaming trick. There's our leader coming across to win the race. Very well indeed. But our interest is now on those two cars on the top of your screen.
And McIntyre just got it. It was less than a car's length between it. Just very, very close.
Right, well,
There is the finish of the race, and as we mentioned earlier, there will be a parachute jump. Would you believe the aircraft has taken off? It's up in the air now, and the parachutist will be Roy Marker from Albury. We'll be having the official interviews in just a few moments, but Roy Marker is up in the aircraft, and just there it is, up there in these very windy conditions at the moment. Roy will jump from the 182 Cessna from about 2,500 feet and endeavour to land on the airstrip down